So now we've got our API set up, it's time to configure this on the client side of things. So let's head back to VS Code. I'm just going to clean up all of these open windows. And now we're returning our followings and followers and whether or not a user is following another user. What we can do is we can head over to our models folder and we can go to our profile interface. And what we can do is add the properties that we're now getting back from our server inside here. So we'll have a following property, which is going to be a Boolean. And this represents whether the currently logged in user is following the profile that we're looking at. We'll also add the followers count, which is going to be a number. And we'll also add the following count as well, again a number. And what we also want to do inside our activity.ts is also update the iAttendee so that we also have a property for if the user is following this particular attendee. And this is just called following. And this is just a Boolean. And what we can do now is go to the various parts of our application where we're displaying this information and update it. And we'll start with the attendees. And if we go across to our activity detailed sidebar, and we're getting an error in our application now because the property following is missing in the type. And what we'll do for our attendee interface is we'll just make following optional. And that should resolve the issue inside our browser, and it does. And what we want to do is we want to go, let's just pick an activity that Tom is going to and view future activity 2 in this case. And what we want to do is make sure that we only show the following for when a user is actually following this particular user. So I'm just going to go to the activity detailed sidebar. And inside here, because this is now part of our attendee object, we've already got this information. And what we can do is scroll down to where we've got the piece of text that specifies if the user's following. And I can say attendee.following and then just take the closing brace and add it after following. And if we go back to the browser, what we should find is that now we only see the following for Tom and it's not on Bobby's profile. And if we just go back to the activities and I'll just pick a different activity, then we should find that following is no longer in place for this particular user. And what we also want to do is just add a highlight to show in the activity list if the user is following any of the attendees. And what we'll do is we'll just add an orange border around the avatar here to signify the user is following that user. So just back to VS Code again, and this time we'll open up the activity list attendees or activity list item attendees. And what we want to do here is just add some additional styling if the user is following this particular user. So in order to achieve this, what we can do is we can add a const called styles. And what we'll do, just very simply, we'll just give it a border color of orange. And we'll set the border width equal to 2. And then inside our image, what we'll do is we'll make it a bordered image. And then we'll give it some style and say if the attendee.following, then we'll set it to styles, otherwise we'll set it to null. And if we go back and take a look at the effects that this has had, then what we should find, if I scroll down to where Tom is in the list, we can see it's kind of subtle. You might want to be a bit more dramatic than I've been here, but we can see the orange border to identify that this is a user that our currently logged in user is following. And what we also want to do is go to our profiles, and if I go to my profile, then we also want to update the numbers inside here with the following count and the follower count. So let's go across to our profile header in this particular case, and we'll just go to the profile header. And what the information we have in here is we're getting the user's profile, and we know we're returning the following count and the follower count for this. So what we can do, if we go down to our statistics here, what we can set our followers to is the profile.followers count, and also the following we'll set to profile.following count. And if we go back and take a look, what we should find is that that's not worked. And a refresh of the page has now showed up. So we get the number of followers, and let's just go and check a different profile to make sure that Tom shows the correct number as well. And if I click on Tom's profile, then we get the fact that Tom has got 1 follower and he's following 0 people. So that's correct as well. So what we'll take a look at next is give the users the ability to click on the button to follow or unfollow another user.